I'm Nick Troy. I was a chef at the recently closed 13th Note, and I am the interim chair of Unite Hospitality Glasgow branch. The 13th Note is this sort of like, it has like a cultural heritage. You get a lot of like famous Glasgow bands and Scottish groups have played there. Bell and Sebastian, Franz Ferdinand, Alex Capranos actually used to work as a venue manager on the 13th Note. You've had a lot of international acts, Green Day, Goldfrapp and stuff like that have all played in the 13th Note at some point. It's like the home to a lot of different music scenes, particularly like niche scenes like industrial music and stuff like that. It's one of the only places where these scenes have somewhere where they can fill out a room, but like it's like that nice middle ground between, like, it's not too small for them, but it's also not too big either. Most venues in Glasgow, like the smallest ones, are about 250. A lot of these gigs would probably be spoiled by the fact they'd be playing to empty rooms. We lodged a collective grievance in February of 2023 over major health and safety concerns. A lot of staff were regularly in dangerous situations. Some of the health and safety concerns would have meant legally we should not have been allowed to serve food. We were sort of coerced into doing that. We also had issues with poverty pay. We had some staff on as little as $6.83 an hour. A 0-hour contract for pretty much every member of staff, which people's hours were fluctuating week to week. One week you were working 25 hours, the next week you were working 8. No ability to plan, serious concerns about rent. Most of our members, the 13th Note, are in debt. Like prior to redundancy, we were people were constantly like living in their overdraft, and obviously has a massive impact on everything: people's ability to eat, people's ability to heat their homes, people's ability to pay rent. So that was a key issue. When we lodged the grievance, we initially had some positive talks. We got an end to age discrimination in pay. We got everyone put on to the least the minimum wage. We got a slight pay increase shortly after that by 15 pence. So everyone was lifted off of the minimum wage, but we're still far short of the national living wage, which was our demand in a collective grievance. We were sent templates of contracts and told that's your contract, because a lot of our members, it wasn't even just a case of having 0 hours. A lot of our members literally had never signed a contract. I had initially been in the bar and I moved into the kitchen. I never ever signed a contract, despite haggling management for it consistently. I never ever signed a contract to work in the kitchen. They tried to use that initially to pay me minimum wage for being a chef. Outside of the actual 2 co-general managers, we have 100%. Every single member of staff outside of that was a member of Unite Hospitality. Jacqueline Fennessy, who owns the left bank in the Bungo as well, she said in an email, I will not and never will, I do not and never will recognise Unite as a trade union. Despite, she said that this is while also preaching to the press that she respects our right to join a trade union, respects the work that unions do in helping workers and whatnot, but she's got, like, I mean, you're not going to find a higher density in Glasgow or in Scotland than what we had. Jackie had sent us a grievance appeal outcome saying that she's assessed the situation and she's fixed all health and safety concerns. There are no more health and safety concerns in the venue. This obviously the line she'd been trotting out for weeks. 2 hours later, environmental health came in to do a spot check and closed the venue with immediate effect. So, I mean, that just illustrates the sort of situation we were dealing with, the employer we were dealing with constantly. She was a chronic liar. We're talking across the building there was a serious rodent infestation. We're dealing with mice daily, dealing with mouse shit daily, having to chuck out. Like some shifts, I was coming in the morning, having to keep the venue closed later, so having to throw out like tens of kilos of seeds and lentils and grains and whatnot. Like some of the stuff is actually quite expensive, you know what I mean? Things like Vital Wheat Gluten and whatnot. So having to throw out kilos of that on a daily basis because the mice had managed to chew into it and whatnot. But having to close the kitchen on a regular basis because we're seeing mice in the kitchen during service. That was always treated with you were always treated with contempt for that by the management, as if you were being like a nuisance and not effectively try to save us all from like legal repercussions. It was absolutely ridiculous. These are things that could have been solved like months and months and months ago. Jacqueline Fennessy did not want to do that, did not recognise any, did not believe we deserved respect or dignity in work. And yeah, it was her own campaign, her own stubbornness and refusal to listen to the demands of almost her entire staff base that resulted in the 13th note closure. We eventually voted unanimously for strike action, despite an attempt by Jacqueline to get in the way of that by challenging the bargaining unit, which created a really short window in which we could return our ballots. We still managed to get every single vote that was cast on a majority turnout was yes. We had no votes. We went out on the 14th of July. We had incredible public support. We'd already had incredible public support before in terms of we had like 6,000 names in a petition supporting us. We'd had a lot of people coming into the business and stuff like that and speaking to us on the bar. We'd had people like giving like tips in that and solidarity, like sometimes like decent sums of money in that. It was overwhelming actually. It was really great response. We had like about 100 people or more actually on the first day outside the note. Jacqueline decided just to shut the venue for those 2 days of strike action. We had an insane amount of press coverage and stuff like that as well. So it sort of blew up. We've had like a lot of really good support. We've been borderline charitable in what we're asking Jacqueline for. We're asking Jacqueline for the very, very, very basics of workers' rights, and that's something that she, as an employer, felt that she could not deliver. But I think what we demonstrated was that like we don't, without the express permission of like hospitality staff, like no pints are poured, no dish is made, and not a beat of music is played. I think that we demonstrated that the 13th note failed to open on Friday and Saturday, the 14th and 15th of July. I think we demonstrated our collective power, our collective will, and we had the support of everyone behind us. It was fantastic. We know that these conditions are not unique to the 13th note. There are similar businesses practicing similar violations of like basic workers' rights within a stone's throw of the note. They're so used to operating outside of the law that they genuinely do not understand the law now. So we were in situations, we were in meetings with Jackie, or we were dealing with management, and we were saying like this needs to stop. Here is like where this is an issue in the Health and Safety at Work Act or the Employment Rights Act and stuff like that. And they were genuinely taken aback by it, like genuinely talking about things that like honestly basic things like having hot running water in a kitchen. We had managers that were disgusted that we would say we refused to serve food while we didn't have any hot water, to the point that they would then lie to us about the availability of hot water and that when the plumbing broke. It's difficult to gauge what they will do and how they'll behave because there are no parameters set for them. I think if you get a recognition agreement in another industry and you get people that are briefed by lawyers and have an HR department, you can gauge how they will behave at least to some degree, whereas these people act erratically, or completely out of control really, in the way they respond to things like industrial action or workers unionising, and that is again because it's lawless. They are lawbreakers. As an industry, it's an industry that regularly breaks the law. On the 19th, the Wednesday after the strikes, the first wave of strikes, she 2 hours before meeting with ACAS decided to liquidate or supposedly liquidate the company. She's still not actually done it, and make everyone redundant. We had a chef go in. One of our members went in for his shift, was told effectively to turn around and leave. The place was going to be closing, but he was told not to tell anyone. As was another duty manager that Jacqueline contacted. Obviously, the chef informed the rest of the union, and we were able to act accordingly with that. But yeah, I've still not actually had a conversation with Jacqueline Fennessy about redundancy. She's not spoken to me at all about it. She's not spoken to several members of staff. I think from the outside, people think, well, that's us. We've been defeated by Jacqueline Fennessy. I would challenge that completely. I think we are undefeated. Hospitality is like one of the fastest growing sectors in the trade union movement. This is a setback, but we're looking to make this a temporary setback. We're in absolutely no way defeated. We're only looking forward, and we're positively building on the lessons that we've learned here. We'll be taking that across, and we'll be reporting back to the movement as a whole on that, and we'll also be using it to advance our own cause. 13th note workers are absolutely not finished yet.